I am Tatira Batul from BUP. I am in conversation with Smita Sharma, who has been an independent journalist for 21 years in India. And today we want to talk about a little bit of the India-Bangladesh relationship. So recently there has been a major shift in the political upheaval. So how is Indian media and the public responding to this? And is there a difference between the media and the public?
You know, India is a diverse country. India is not one homogeneous whole. Northern India is so different from southern India. Eastern India has completely different cultural dimensions compared to Western India, for instance. And when you talk about Indian media, unfortunately, we actually think of the mainstream media and essentially television. Whereas the Indian media space is so diverse, it's much more beyond the television channels, which unfortunately are predominantly aligned with the government narrative and the agenda. But there are a whole bunch of critical voices that are working independently today, whether it's online, television, through podcasts, through social media platforms. So there is a difference. One has to see through that. What you get to see is the mainstream television media, which is doing a certain bidding, setting off a narrative, which is very unfortunate. And that's why people like us who have moved to the independent space, when we come into Bangladesh, we are trying to talk to people and get factual reporting out there. So, you know, for instance, people across northern India in particular who are the Hindi speaking people, the masses, they would have a different sensitivity towards the news reports because of the things that is reaching them through the WhatsApp university, through fake news, misinformation. People in southern India who speak many different languages, you know, perhaps would have a lesser sort of a stereotyped prism towards not just Bangladesh, but many other countries, or even to, you know, our own people, our own citizens in the Northeast, for instance. So it's actually, even as a young person, you should also remember that when you talk about India, there are several Indias within an India.
Absolutely. So currently, our ex-Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina is in exile in India, and Bangladesh wants her to return and face the trials. How do you think, like personally, India will respond to this?
See, you need to understand, despite all the anger that exists here right now, at the end of the day, when the fundamental expectation is for every country that our sovereignty should be respected, every country today is a time of real politics. This is not the time of idealism. You do not have the statesmen of the past, and it's a global phenomena right now. For India, without a doubt, there is a special bond that is shared, given India's own role in the 1971 Liberation War, and the fact that Ms. Hasina actually stayed in India for 6 years following the assassination, the brutal killing of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman and the entire family who was shot down. So she is one leader who does enjoy a personal relationship, not just with one party in power, but even with the opposition or cutting across party lines. So there is a consensus that, you know, nobody is saying that she's going to be there forever, but she's not going to be pushed away from India. I mean, when she came in, there were discussions ongoing whether she would go to UK. There were talks about her going to Finland. Even now there are reports whether she may actually move to UAE. And as the Indian Foreign Minister had informed the Parliament that she had asked India for approval for a moment of stay. So it wasn't going to be permanent. But as long as her transit to another country is not fixed or facilitated, India is not going to ask her to go away. As far as extradition is concerned, look, there is a legal procedure. I mean, there is an extradition agreement between India and Bangladesh. But that's a very long, drawn, complicated process. Extradition doesn't happen just because people stand on the street and ask for somebody to be extradited, and that to somebody who has held the post of a prime minister for a long time. Even if you were to turn the tables, you know, if Bangladesh was in India's position, it would have been the same thing. So when you do politics, there are certain norms that are followed, and it's not like, so if you want to move extradition, there has to be a process of being able to present that legal case, building it up as an evidence, following it up through diplomatic routes. It's a long-run process. That's not going to happen overnight just because people right now are angry. That's not how countries operate.
Okay, so I want to add one thing to that, is that our country has been oppressed for 15 years. We've had a fascist government regime for 15 years. And the way that we had a fascist regime, we showed the world that we have the power to bring her down as well, that nobody can oppress us, that we want democracy, and we want secularism in our country. India has voting rights. It has always had the voting rights, and India has chosen its leader by themselves. We did not choose our leader. We could not vote for the longest time. I want to ask another question. That's just a message to the Indian media. I want to ask another question, is that what is your assessment of the mass Indian media? Because there has been so much exaggeration in Indian media, because we have seen, like in Twitter or other Indian media, that there has been a genocide, Hindu genocide in Bangladesh, which is a lot of exaggeration. There has been some sort of communal violence. I agree, and we are working day and night to mitigate that, and we want a secular country. We're working towards a better Bangladesh.
Look, first of all, to begin with, congratulations to each of you for demonstrating the power of technology combined with the power of youth and ideas. Because today, people of your age group across the world essentially would be busy making Insta reels, shorts, doing a whole bunch of entertainment stuff. But the fact that young people can come together, can mobilize for a cause, it's heartening to see, because it helps democratic roots and institutions to take shape. You will have a lot of risks to face. Whenever there is a kind of a revolution, there is always the fear of a political vacuum, of a vacuum being exploited, of a post-revolution chaos. And the world witnessed the Arab Spring. It did not necessarily yield the kind of governments and the kind of leadership that those people who were heading out to the Tahrir squares of the Arab world were hoping for. In a lot of places, the countries actually descended into further chasms and deep cleavages. So the youth coming together is a good thing. The youth being able to continue this protest and this campaign, like right now you're doing a lot of fundraising for floods. I see that as a good spirit. The spirit of the revolution is good. The intention is good. Will it shape up going further into something that will stabilize and make the political systems of Bangladesh healthier? Will you be able to break out of that two-party vindictive regime cycle which has been going on and on? I mean, you are young people. You may not have been there when the BNP regime was there. But believe you me, for those who were there, they have also seen that what that regime is also capable of. Different regimes come with different problems, because as they say, that power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Coming to your Indian media question, I go back to my opening remarks where I said that it's not one homogeneous whole. And it's true that there has been a high degree of exaggeration of the situation here in Bangladesh by sections of mainstream media. Let me repeat that word.
Right.
So many of us actually wanted to come in here, be able to talk to people and get back home with some more factual reporting. So those reports are also there. Indian media, ab hum kya kare? It's not just about Bangladeshis. The Indian media, I have been in television, in mainstream television with leading TV organizations as the foreign policy editor and a primetime anchor for almost 18 years plus. I left that space, and it hurts me as a journalist to see that medium, which is so powerful with so much of reach, go into a state where there is such terrible credibility crises. There is a huge trust deficit, and the breakdown of that contract, the sort of a contractual thing that you see, trust between civil society and institutions. But they don't do this only against Bangladeshis. They do this against Indians constantly. They do this against Indian states constantly. They are peddling narratives where our own people, when they come out on the streets to protest against a Citizenship Amendment Act, they are labeled as Islamic forces. Our farmers, when they come out to protest on the farmers' bill, they are labeled as Khalistanis or separatists. So this labeling, tagging, they do even with our own Indian citizens. They put racist tags on our fellow citizens from the Northeast. So it's a plague.
It's a plague.
But it's evolving. Television in India, please remember, is way younger than print, for instance. And while I'm completely disappointed, but I'm not without hope. I think as societies evolve, as politics change, everything changes. There is a transformation that happens. Our recent elections have thrown up very interesting results. Suddenly, we do have a healthy opposition back in parliament that are raising issues. There are debates happening. Youth in these elections had an important role. Unemployment was a very key driver issue, just like Bangladesh. So I'm sure when things change, it may be taking some time right now, things will be better. Right?
Thank you. Thank you for this conversation.
Absolutely glad. And please, do not think that all Indians have one view, or we are just looking at you through one lens. Just like Indians also shouldn't think that Bangladeshis all hate them, or there is simply an anti-India sentiment. Yes, there is anger towards India. But come and talk to people here and you'll realize the different reasons for it. These are multi-layered, there are a lot of grey zones. Nothing in life is just black and white. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
Hello,
you so
Teko.
much. Thank you. Apniya.